Bills fans, I'm not even going to attempt to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you a white lie. I'm not going to tell you a partial lie. The truth is, this was likely the worst season y'all will have in the last 5 years.
Shut up the Bills! It's not house flag! It's not house flag!
Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, Bills, yeah. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Want me now listen, everyone play their position. Buffalo got a tradition, they say we trippin'. They better get out our way. Top of the table, we flippin'. We on a mission, got an unstoppable team. Continue to follow your dream, by any means. Buffalo, get in the Super Bowl ring. Cause we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, yeah. Reppin' the mafia, Bills, yeah. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Mafia up in your city, time to get gritty. Screaming and yelling, we bugging. Look at the red and blue.
This is an MVP year for Josh Allen. As an MVP voter, I said this last week. Josh Allen, he looks like an MVP. When you vote for MVP, and I can speak for myself, I think I'm one of 50 voters, you look at a couple things. Who's the best team in football? Who's the best player on that team in football? What do they look like as the best player on that team in football? And how much talent is around that best player on that best team in football?
Cause we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo.
And welcome, everybody. And sorry for the technical delay here as we work through this here on this Wednesday. I am one of your co hosts here, Beyond 716, back after a week hiatus. And the one and only Whittle holding it down as he always does last week. I believe Whittle will not be with us tonight, unfortunately. So Whittle and I just can't seem to get on the same page. But hey, it's the off season, but there is no true off season when it comes to the Buffalo Bills anymore. We are at it. We just passed another mile marker, right? If this was a race to the season, Memorial Day weekend is another time that I look at and say you could start feeling it in the air just a hair that we're getting closer and closer to the start of the 2026 NFL season. We are now officially 105 days away from the start of the 2026 season as it kicks off in Seattle with the Super Bowl champion Seahawks. And the Buffalo Bills will play a few days after that. I believe my math is right, 109 days as the Bills open their season in a tough matchup against the Houston Texans. We'll get into that too. We'll start going into the schedule a little bit more. I know I haven't been around to talk a lot about it and a lot of reactions like that. So, and listen, we're gonna make this sort of like an open forum Wednesday night without Whittle. I mean, Whittle's the great one. I mean, he can go on for hours. He's amazing. So I want to leave a lot of it to you all in the group as well. If you have questions, and we're going to get right to it. But I'll set you up with what I have in mind for us to talk about tonight. We'll get into the OTAs. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things that have transpired from the OTAs, some of the light discussion topics that we could have about the Buffalo Bills. This is a voluntary OTA, so there's not a ton to take from it. And I don't think we should, as a fan base, read too much into a lot of what gets done at OTAs, but we'll get into that. We'll also get into the Joe Brady era unofficially kicking off, really with OTAs. This is the first time he's really on the field with some of his players in this setting, so we're officially kicking off that. And the Jim Leonard era as well. We'll get into some things that he may have said as well, and some of the comments about some of our rookies, and we'll get into that. We'll also get into, listen, it may just be talk, but will 14 come back? We'll get into that. We'll talk about whether it's a good idea for the Buffalo Bills to bring back number 14. And there's a lot more as well. And I also have a very interesting stat to lay on you tonight to give us hope on this late May. So without that, let's get started. And I want to say hello to Michael Weller here. Thank you for the comment. Great to be with you as well, and happy to have you here. And again, anyone in the group, if you want to bring anything to the pod tonight, please do. Want to hear from you. Any questions you have, any comments. And no, about Whittle real quick, there's no truth to the rumor that he's in hiding because the New York Knicks are the Eastern Conference champions. But we'll get into that later, hopefully next week as the NBA Finals kick off. I kid. I just got to put that out there in case he listens. But anyway. Hey, Beyond, great to be here with you. I can't wait for the season to start. What are you looking forward to most this season? Yeah, that's a good question. Because, we're really in, I feel like, Michael, this is the second act. I feel like there's two major acts of Josh Allen's career. We're getting close to the end of the first act. He just turned 30 this past week. We all know about that. I do believe Josh can play a lot longer than some may think, especially this day and age with all the innovations in just players taking care of themselves, medicine, things like that, procedures, how fast they get done. I could see players lasting into their 40s, and I see Josh Allen being no exception. Now, will he play the same way that he has at 23 that he will at 39? No, he won't be trucking everybody at that age, but he still has that very quick release. He still has an incredible arm. He still has a very high acumen for the position of quarterback. He still should be an excellent quarterback late in his 30s. So I feel like we're kind of moving into the second major act of a true, quote, Super Bowl window for number 17 and for the Buffalo Bills. So what am I most excited about? Well, it's interesting because we just fired Sean McDermott, and there's a lot of unrest with this team in terms of that. So maybe the excitement level isn't quite as off the charts as it usually is. We had a very disappointing ending last year in Denver. I would say the most exciting thing, Michael, is what Jim Leonard could possibly do with this defense, right? And if you listen to Jim Leonard's press conferences, and I'm not sure how you all feel about this, Jim Leonard to me feels like a guy that is destined to be an NFL head coach sooner than later. He's got that, just the swagger about him, just the aura. There's something about the way he speaks. I feel like it's just a matter of when, not if, Jim Leonard becomes an NFL head coach. It could be, who knows, it could be next year, depending on how things go here in Western New York with this Buffalo Bills defense. I would say I'm most excited to see what he could do with some of the guys in the front seven, maybe with our new revamped linebacking group, to see how they're going to play together. Now, again, this is going to come with a lot of growing pains as well. That'd be one thing that I would say, I'm not even sure if there's maybe like a 1 and 1A, because the other 1A thing is what is going to be the impact of DJ Moore on this offense. Now, we did make the trade in 2020 for Stephon Diggs, and we saw the meteoric rise in the Buffalo Bills offense from 19 to 20 when we added number 14 to the mix. Will we see the same from this past year on the passing game to this year? I'm not so sure. I feel like it's going to be somewhere in between. We are a different type of team now than we were in 2020. We have a much stronger running game. We have a better offensive line. So I feel like the Bills probably want to be a little more of a run team than in 2020. So I think if a lot of fans are feeling that the Buffalo Bills are going to be just like the 2020 Bills now that we got DJ Moore, I think you're going to be a little disappointed. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that we do have James Cook now, the reigning NFL rushing leader champion. Anybody have that in their bingo card? If I told you 5 years ago that the Buffalo Bills are going to have the rushing champion on their roster in the next 5 years, you probably would have thought I was crazy, right? But here we are. So we have seen a change in that. So maybe I would say 1A and 1, Michael, just to answer your question. Tell me what you're most excited about, too. I want to hear what you have to say, or anybody else. What are you really excited about as we move into late May and we start thinking about the season again? Training camp is getting closer and closer and closer, folks. We're going to get through June, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup. We're going to get through free agency in both sports, the draft. See, that consumes some of us multiple sports fans like myself. Then you get into July 4th, you do the July 4th fireworks, get into that, and voila, guess what? We're 2 weeks away. Whittle and I will be doing shows about the start of camp, and I cannot wait for that. So it's going to be a very exciting time. So also, Albert is one of our best, and there's so many of you that are great in our group chat, in our chat here. We can't do this show without you all, especially if I'm here without Whittle. I feel like a lost soul without our good buddy Whittle here, but we move on. So, Albert, love to hear what you think the Bills have to do to make the season successful. Super Bowl or bust, top 5 offense in rushing or passing, AFC appearance, win or lose. This is a very good question, Albert, because, and you know what? This is a perfect setup for me, Albert, and I appreciate it, about what I want to share with you all tonight in terms of making the season successful, Super Bowl or bust. Top 5 offense, running or passing. Let's start with the top 5 offense. I would say, in terms of that, I feel like we should be a top 5 offense. I feel like there's 2 sliding things, okay? Let's say our running game was here last year and our passing game was here. Passing game goes here, maybe the running game goes like this, but you see what I'm doing? It's all kind of evening out in the same area. So if that makes sense to you, I feel like we're going to be a little more dynamic in our passing game, maybe a little more explosiveness, not have to grind out as many drives as I felt at times we had to do this year. So hopefully, will Josh Allen's interceptions go up maybe just a hair? Maybe. I always feel with Josh Allen, I want the turnovers to be lower in terms of taking care of the football and fumbling. Interceptions are going to happen with a guy like Josh. I just can't have him turn the ball over like he did in the first half against Denver last year, holding it like a piece of bread out, saying, here it is, and losing it, and that cost us the game. Now, also in terms of an AFC appearance, win or lose, I would say Super Bowl or bust. I want to get rid of the word bust in this, Albert, and I would say Super Bowl is our goal. That going into the season, I feel like with this group, Brandon Beane, Joe Brady, Jim Leonard, I have a 2-year window on these two, the whole new quote era of this team, minus Sean McDermott. So I'm looking at this as a 2-year window for a bust, if that makes sense. I feel like a Super Bowl appearance is what we need in the next 2 years. I would say a win maybe in the next 3 years, right? Is how I see it. I know for a lot of us that's hard to stomach because we've been knocking on the door for so long now, Albert, and you know just as well as I do, all the analytics show it, all the metrics show it, all the stats show it. We're at the top of the list of some of the greatest runs in NFL history, but yet we do not have a Super Bowl appearance, which blows my mind. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it's self-inflicted. Some of it's the fact that we went up against another real dynasty, a true dynasty in the Kansas City Chiefs, which was our roadblock and may have cost us a couple Super Bowl appearances. Now, about the Super Bowl or bust, because we do have a new coaching staff this year. We do have a brand new coach. So I'm going to tease you actually a little bit and wait just a few minutes. I want to show you something about Joe Brady that could give us some hope this year, Albert. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But I also want to bring up Michael Weller's comment here. I'm excited to see how Joe Brady will be making important decisions in game and also the defense with our DC and how he will change his defense. I couldn't agree more, Mike. I feel that very much from you. And I'm excited to see what Joe can bring to the table. I think the good news in terms of that is there is a familiarity. He's been in the building for a few years now. So this transition doesn't feel quite as strong as if we had an outside hire. Let's say, for example, if we brought in any coach from the outside, right? And I'm not even talking Brian Dable at this point. Maybe someone from a Green Bay organization or something, somebody completely fresh. Um, I would say it would feel different, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, so I feel like a good amount of what we've seen, I would expect from this Buffalo Bills team in 2026. So, and I feel like the DC and how we changed this defense. Whittle spoke about it a lot, especially in the last few weeks, and when we went through our top 10, and in that case, we have questions about this Buffalo Bills defense, and no matter how much we spin it from now till week one against Houston and then beyond, we're until we see the results of how this defense is going to look. We're going to have those questions going this season. I think those questions are valid, even from some of our pundits or those that doubt the Buffalo Bills. It's a legitimate question to ask. What is this team going to look like after Sean McDermott? Right. And a lot of people may say, well, a lot of people felt out there that because we made this coaching change, our window's closed. That's it. Sean McDermott's gone. It's over. That's it. That's how it works. You had your shot. Thank you very much, Buffalo Bills. Here come some other teams into the mix. Now, is the AFC tough? Oh, you betcha. The LA Chargers are coming. The Houston Texans, our week one opponent, is the team that gives us problems, and we all know what they're capable of. Great coach, good ownership, good roster. I still think if CJ Stroud even plays very good, they're going to be a tough out. Even the team in our division, New England, I agree with Whittle. I feel like they're going to take a step back, but I still think they're going to be formidable, right? So, and you still have teams like Baltimore that are always a threat. They're always going to be, as long as they got LJ and as long as they have the roster, they're always going to be in the mix. Cincinnati, I feel, is going to be a team to really watch this year. So there's a lot of competition. Of course, Denver, we can't, of course, I'm not counting anybody out, and you never count out Kansas City, no matter what anybody says about them. If Mahomes comes back healthy and they are on it, would it surprise you if the Kansas City Chiefs are 9-3 and 12 weeks into the season and they're rolling along and here they come again? No, I don't think that would surprise anybody at this point, knowing what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are capable of doing. But I know I'm getting a little sidetracked on that. But about Joe Brady again. So the Joe Brady era has kicked off. Okay. So, he's saying all the right things. I mean, this is all, the OTAs right now are not mandatory, but we had a good turnout. Some good veterans, some of the veterans like James Cook, Deion Dawkins, and Ed showed up with some, at the OTAs, which was good to see. It's always nice to see. Dalton Kincaid said he was feeling great. We're seeing some other good standouts. I mean, Keon Coleman saying all the right things. I mean, he's motivated, things like that. Seeing some good things about Josh and DJ Moore and their chemistry. And again, these are light topics, I feel, that do they have mega importance? Are they going to be noted? Like when you go to the podium, when you win the conference or Super Bowl, do they say, well, that was mandatory OTAs. That's why we're here today, folks. But that's part of the process. It's like a book, right? This is a part of the chapter of what you build for your season. So it is important, especially with the new coach and with a new quote regime, if you want to say that. I mean, Brandon Beane's still running the show, but it's sort of newish. It has that new feel to it. So it's really good to hear again some of the light positive notes that we are seeing. Um, and from some of our rookies. I mean, we're hearing a lot of good things about our Ohio State corner. I believe it's Igbinusun. I'm terrible with pronunciations, and I apologize to him if I'm not getting Davis' name right. But we're hearing some great things out of him coming out of OTA, and I'm really happy to hear that. That's something that I'm excited to see what he could bring, and some of the other rookies. And again, that's really what this is about. Getting Joe Brady kind of getting acclimated to being a head coach and getting off on the right foot. So, and there he is, Dog. What's up, brother? Great to see you. And Dog, we've been talking about things that we're most excited about this season. So, but I want to lay something on you. I'm glad you're here because we're talking about Joe Brady, right? And we're talking about how sometimes when you see a change like this, you start thinking, man, that may have been our shot with our coach, our old coach, Sean McDermott. Again, Sean McDermott did an excellent job. Never going to disparage the guy. He really changed the culture of Buffalo, got us on a straight arrow from the 17 years of no playoffs. Did a wonderful job. I will never speak a bad word about Sean McDermott. Well, except for 13 seconds and a few other things. But overall, very successful coach. So I'm not here to we're not going to pile on Sean McDermott. We're moving forward. So as I was kind of messing around the other day on the phone, I started thinking about something about Joe Brady, right? So we've seen coaching changes before. How have the successors of those teams done in terms of Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowls? So I went to what a lot of us do this day and age for everything, whether it's get your favorite recipe, or you want to know if your team's going to beat this team in the playoffs, or you want to get advice for health, or you want to get, I got to fix my car and I need this, or you go to AI, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the AI portion of the show, not Allen Iverson, dog, because I know you're a Philly guy. AI, artificial intelligence. So anyway, so let me show you something that I did in my spare time. I'll show you a screenshot. So I went to good old Chat GPT, whatever you guys like to use. I'm using them all. And I said this question: for all of the NFL teams that either made or won a Super Bowl, this is important. I just wanted to put made or won a Super Bowl. How many of these teams either changed or fired the head coach? Oh, from the previous season. I put a bad screenshot in here. Okay. Terrible screenshot, folks. I apologize in advance. Let me take that off the screen. So what I basically asked here, folks, all right, I'll sum it up in my own words. I asked, of all the Super Bowl coaches, of all the unique coaches in NFL Super Bowl history, how many either made a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl within the first year or two of them taking the job? So I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to put a dog. I don't know if you're laughing at my terrible AI skills or my AI comment, but probably a little bit of both. But so we've had, is this Super Bowl, what Super Bowl are we at right now? Is it 61? What number are we at, folks? I am losing my mind. We are at Super Bowl. Is this Super Bowl 61 coming up? So we've had 60 Super Bowls, which means you have two coaches on each side. I want you to think of each coach as one entity. So that's 120 different instances where a head coach was on the sideline for a Super Bowl, 2 a year times 60, 120. You know how many unique coaches there have been in Super Bowl history? Any guesses? Anyone? How many unique coaches? Meaning, I'll give you an example. Bill Belichick has made 6. That counts as 1. Okay. Any thoughts on that? I will bring that up, and I want you to think about again how many unique coaches have made a Super Bowl. Just got in. Forget win. Forget loss. Right? Marv Levy made 4. That counts as 1. Right? So the answer is, and I'll give it to you all, is 64. Only 64 unique coaches in NFL history made or won a Super Bowl. That is not a lot. That is to illustrate again just how hard it is to win in this sport, folks. We talked about the quarterbacks and how many only unique quarterbacks there have been in Super Bowl history. There's not a lot either. It's not 120, I'll tell you that. It's in somewhere in the 40s. It's like 45. I forget the exact number. Because again, Mahomes makes 4 or 5 Super Bowls. That's one guy. And, Terry Bradshaw made 4. That's 2. So Joe you can go down the list. Tom Brady made what, 10? I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. So you think about how hard it really is to win. So of these 64 coaches, how many made Super Bowl or won it in the first 2 years? So in this screenshot, I do have correct, and I'm going to read you some of it. I'm going to get into it. A lot more than most people think. Looking across Super Bowl history, 45% of head coaches who reached their Super Bowl did it within the first 2 seasons with that team. 29 of 64 coaches made the Super Bowl either year 1 or year 2 after being hired. So that means a significant percentage of Super Bowls either fired the previous head coach like we did, or hired a new one shortly before their Super Bowl run. Here's some great examples. Of course, Bruce Arians with Tampa, Sean McVay with the Rams, Nick Sirianni with Philly. These are some recent examples. San Francisco did this with Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh did it with Baltimore. And, Kansas City, I don't know why they put Andy Reid in there, but he won a Super Bowl eventually with the Chiefs, but not within the first 2 years. So I just wanted to, and of course there are others like John Gruden we have spoke about a lot in the past, of course, as another famous example. I mean, Tony Dungy was a great coach. He got ousted in Tampa. John Gruden comes right in and wins the Super Bowl. 45%. Not bad, right? Not. I thought I had a lot. I had a lot of people guess on what that number would be. A lot of them say 5 coaches, maybe 10. 29 of 64 coaches that have appeared in the Super Bowl or won have made it within the first 2 years of their job. So, two things I took away from this are this. Number one, we have hope, folks. Okay. Just because we fired John McDermott doesn't mean the sky's falling. We've seen plenty of examples of coaches that have come in, new perspectives, new changes with an excellent roster like Buffalo, and have turned it around just like that. So there's no reason to think that Joe Brady cannot do the same. So I'm removing the excuses for Joe Brady. And again, I don't know how many of those is the first year or the second year. It took give me for first and second year. So I want to be clear. That's why I look at this in a 2-year window. And I know for a lot of us, it's a lot to take, right? It's a lot. I remember we had Jarek on, one of my favorite guests here on the pod, and he talked about it a lot last year about some of the guys we drafted and how it might take another year than we're thinking to get us where we need to be, especially on defense. And we still may need another year with some of the guys we brought in this year. We have a new system. We have a new coordinator on the staff. But, we've heard some comments from some of the players. Maxwell Hairston, for example, said he feels free under Joe Brady, under the tutelage of Jim Leonard. That's interesting because maybe, who knows, maybe he's going to unlock a lot of the potential that we have on this roster that we all know that the Bills have. So I thought that was a really cool stat, something to give us a little excitement going into the season instead of, oh, the dread, new coach and maybe our window's closed. I'm not buying any of it. Now, how's this year going to turn out? There are more questions we've had now than we've had in the last several years. But I feel like the questions that we have, the answers could have more of a profound effect on our ability to win the Super Bowl than it did in years past. I hope this is going to make some sense. And I know what I mean is bringing in guys like CJ Gardner Johnson and some of the potential that we have on our defense. I feel like we could be a lot more impactful on that side of the ball in January and February than we did under Sean McDermott. Where Sean McDermott's defense, I always compared him to, if you're any of you are baseball fans, Clayton Kershaw from the Dodgers was one of the greatest pitchers of all time, right? But in the playoffs, he was a 500 pitcher. Why? Because Clayton Kershaw painted the corners. He tried to do things based off deception, base things on to make you swing and miss. When you get to the playoffs and these guys dig in and these great hitters like the Shea Otanis, the Judges, whatever, I'm not making this a baseball show, but a lot of pitchers like that try to paint the corners and just try to perceive you. That stuff doesn't work as great in the playoffs. I thought Sean McDermott was a master at disguising coverages and things like that. You start going against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, you think he's going to fall for that stuff? Not all the time. And we saw it over and over again, a big third down stuff where we couldn't make the plays. Those deceptions and the things Sean McDermott did were sort of exploited, right? And again, he did an excellent job for the most part, but in those situations, that's why he gave up over 30-some points a game in losses in Buffalo Bills history. Thank you, Dog, for that. Appreciate that. So maybe the questions we have could lead to answers that make us more impactful to get exactly. And Dog has talked about this a lot, and I want to give him a lot of credit. Talks about, those getting basically those dogs on this team, guys that have the fire, the passion, that have that, ability to make those big plays. We need those kind of players. Will and I spoke about it a lot. You just need more of that on defense. Football's a very emotional sport, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, you need guys that are going to step in and just say, we are making this whatever, explicit play, whatever you want to say, and we're going to go out and do it. We need, you need playmakers on the defense side of the ball. Defenses do win championships a lot more than most realize. Yes, you need a great quarterback. You do. I still think your odds are higher when you have a guy like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, all those great quarterbacks. You have a better chance, but that doesn't mean that's the only path to get a Super Bowl. That's just part of it. So that's what I'm excited about on this defense. I like some of the players we're bringing in. I like what they could be. It's going to be very interesting to see what our defense looks like in terms of, like I said, what Jim Leonard has in store in this new quote 3-4-4-3, moving Groot to the outside. I think he's going to be very effective on the outside. So I'm real excited again to see on that front. And that's what we're talking about tonight. What makes you excited? What makes you nervous too? What makes you most nervous, folks? I want to hear some things. What gives you the most concern? What's the number one thing? I'm concerned, and I'm concerned about a couple things, but one thing is the schedule. I'm not crazy about our schedule this year. I don't like the fact that we have 2 sets of 4 games and 5 times games on the road. That's a lot. We only have 8 home games to boot. We get 3 of our first 4 at home, I believe, right after the opener. So right off the bat, if the Bills do not get off to a good start this year, it could get troublesome. We got a lot of road games, and we got some tough road games too. So, like, don't even sleep on at Minnesota. I think Kyler Murray could be a very savvy fantasy pick this year, by the way, folks. I still think Minnesota's got a good roster. They got an excellent defensive coordinator in Flores. They're well coached. That's still not going to be an easy game. Just as one example, we may just glance over that game and say, "Oh, that's a win." Nah, I'm not so sure. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that goes. I mean, that's one thing that gives me a lot of concern in that respect. So there is, and again, every team's going to have certain things that are just going to give us a lot of concern, right? So, in terms of that, we do have some other good news about the schedule this year. And I'm not sure if Whittle got into this last week, and I apologize if I am repeating myself, but I'm going to bring up a couple things as we are on here about that, about the schedule. So, again, if any of you have concerns about the season, let me know what you think they are. I want to hear what you have to say about that and what you have in mind for that. But there is something about the schedule I wanted to bring up for us here in terms of something that doesn't get a lot of press nationally, right? But it is something when you speak to athletes, especially those I've known some athletes in high-end wrestling or even MMA and some other things, and they've said that this means something. Okay. So let me lay another tweet on you here from Warren Sharp, one of the better ones out there to follow. And he talks about the Buffalo Bills in terms of net rest in 2026. We are now ranked number 2 in 2026 net rest. It's our number 1 best in franchise history. So we play 5 games against teams with more rest than their opponent, tied for first in the NFL and the most we've had in franchise history. Last year, we were -7 in net rest. This year, we are +14. So despite our tough schedule, despite the road games, we're getting a little bump here in what's called net rest. Now, I haven't done all the analytics on this, and I wish Masari was here for that, our great friend Kevin. But I'm curious in terms of net rest over the years, what that's done for teams' records in terms of performances against that. But so the Buffalo Bills should have some good breaks in terms of, okay, maybe we have some more rest against this team versus another. And I think that's going to be important, especially as we are going through some of the growing pains on our own roster to get our defense to where it needs to be. So I thought that was a pretty cool statistic. Again, so we're laying a couple of things on you to give you some excitement and some actual positivity as we head into June for this season. So we're about 30 plus minutes in. So what I'd like to do, I just want to pay the bills here as we do, and I will be right back.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliott Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
And welcome back to part 2 of our solo pod tonight. Again, without the almighty, the great one, Whittle. We do miss him when he is not here. He is definitely missed every single time he is not here. But again, I want to thank you all. We had a great first half hour. I want to thank our great sponsors and also thank Do Champions. And listen, if you're not following us on any of your social media platforms, please give Do Champions a follow. Give us a like on YouTube. That means everything to us, even if you don't listen to us on there. The scribes in there are really appreciated. They help our algorithms. They help us in a lot of ways. So if any of you could possibly just take the time, again, to go to YouTube, give us a like. And yours truly will be making some Buffalo Sabre content coming up soon. If you are a Sabre fan, team came within a whisker making the conference finals this year. The buzz is back in Buffalo. If you are a hockey fan, look for us. We're going to be doing some great content on the Sabres and all of our other great shows about the Buffalo Bills. As this again feels like the slow season, but there's really not much of a slow season in the NFL anymore. So Whittle and I will be doing plenty coming up, and we're very excited. We're going to go through a lot of our positions, a lot of battles, a lot of looking at the 53-man rosters. We move closer and closer, and maybe we'll look at some possible June 1st cuts, which could be coming up soon, or maybe some trades and how they impact the Buffalo Bills. So in the second half here, when again, thank you all for listening to us on X or any of your platforms. And just kind of come up with Albert's here. Comment again. Our 2025 draft class was all defense. Hate to see the older defense lose a draft class. I agree with you on that. It's the reason we have to go into free agency and get an expensive age defensive end. But it's the NFL, so no job is guaranteed. That is true. I mean, Albert, especially in this team, and again, we talked about just before about how hard it is to win in the NFL, how hard it is to make a Super Bowl or win. It's hard to hold an NFL roster spot down, folks. It is not easy. There's always someone on that bench or someone coming through. There's a whole new set of athletes that come in. They come in through the draft, and they're coming for your job, folks. I mean, there's some hungry players on that roster. I remember we were in a space with John Fina one time, and he had a great perspective on how, I said, I hear a lot of you fans talk about when a couple players get hurt and you start panicking. He says, I know as an athlete, I know when I played on the Bills, there's some guys on that bench, they're hungry, and he knows they're talented, and they're waiting for that opportunity. And sometimes they come in and knock that door down. These are great athletes at the top, folks. There's differences, of course, between the Josh Allens and the Kyle Allens, and we know that. But the differences between the average player and the guy off the 53 may not be as much as you think. It's razor close. So there's a lot of jobs on the line, and we're going to get into the 53 a lot as we go forward. We may not get into that tonight, again, because we have plenty of time. We're going to talk about, I can't wait to get into camp battles, look at some of our rookies and how they relate, and very excited to see what the Buffalo Bills 2026 draft class is going to look like and how many of these guys are going to make an impact. It's hard, it's a very interesting class we have because we do have I really like our draft class, but in terms of immediate impact, it's hard to say, right? I'll give you an example, right? Skylar Bell, wide receiver, UConn. We've talked a lot about this guy. Love the pick, but I was talking to a good friend of mine in space the other night on Twitter, and he had a great point. Josh is a great guy. And we started going through and breaking down how many completions we expect Josh Allen to have during the season and projecting who's going to have this many catches, who's going to have this many catches. And when you get right down to it, when you get down to Skylar Bell, he may only have 20 or 30 catches at most. There's not enough footballs to go around for him to have a major impact in 2026. But if there's injuries and things like that, he could be thrusted into the role. And then a Skylar Bell could certainly take off and have a great season. But just on the surface, hopefully, knock on wood, we have good health in terms of our skill players. How much impact is he really going to have? I love the pick, but is it for 2026? Maybe not as much. So, but it doesn't mean it's a bad pick at all. I mean, Drew Bowery's another guy, offensive lineman from Boston College. I mean, is he an ultimate replacement for Deion Dawkins at some point? I don't know. Right? We don't know. Deion Dawkins again is a major friend to Josh, and that means something around here in Buffalo. And if you don't think it is, why is Kyle Allen our backup quarterback on this roster? ask yourself that question because I'm trying to figure it out. And I think the reason is because he is an FOJ, as we call him around here, and that is friend of Josh. So when you're a friend of Josh, you have a real good chance to stick around. And this is interesting from Albert. This is, let's be real. Maxwell's losing that camp battle to IGB. Still don't understand the pick, but everyone Jim got in 2026 was a tackler more than an athlete. Maxwell's opposite. You know, Possibly, Albert. I guess are we going to play more three corners this year? Are we going to be doing more of that in years past? This is where I got to defer to Whittle on this a little bit more to myself, as he is savant with topics like this. But maybe my thought is maybe they're going to play more three corners this year, Albert, and involve IGB in the mix in that respect, along with Maxwell Hairston. But you're right. I mean, listen, Maxwell Hairston was a pick from a previous defensive coordinator. This happens a lot. It's like with any change in an organization, if your company gets bought out by another, and sometimes you have redundancy, or maybe sometimes you have players that, really maybe the previous company has another idea of somebody for that. So this happens a lot. And maybe Maxwell Harris is a guy. Who knows, Albert? If you want to get wild with it, who knows? Maybe he comes trade bait at some point. Who knows, right? Anything is possible. In that case, again, I'm totally speculating here, folks. I'm not throwing down any rumors or anything like that. So, but you never really can tell this day and age. And we're just gonna have to see what it looks like. Again, that's a question that I think is a good one, but we really won't get an answer until we actually see it in full bloom, especially when we see it in camp and we hear stories and we see what happens in the first several games of the season. Zane versus TJ will be great. Yeah. And listen, TJ's going to be a good one. I think Zane was an excellent pick. I mean, listen, I'm a homer when it comes to Penn State, Zane Durant. But Zane Durant, he's a little bit undersized, but he plays bigger. And I think he could be a very solid sleeper pick for us late in the draft. So I'm real interested to see how Zane Bryant works out. And again, that's a pick that shows, like you said, you brought up a good point about everyone Jim got in 2026 as a tackler. In Morta's case, these are different types of players, different styles that we're looking to fit our system. So we may see some surprises down cut date on the 53-man roster. We may see some players get jettisoned out of town. We're like, wow, I can't believe that happened because of that reason. Or maybe a trade. Maybe there's somebody guy gets traded for a fifth round pick to give him another opportunity somewhere else. And maybe we bring somebody else in. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of bringing somebody in from the past, now I'm not sure if Whittle talked about this before. Well, actually, this actually had just several days ago. So there was a trigger. I call them social media triggers. Actually, before we get into that, this is what I love what Dog here to say. My biggest concern is player development. I'm always looking at position coaches to bring out the best in these young players. I agree. And it's going to be interesting to see how some of the newer coaches do in this respect. I mean, we did lose Aaron Cromer. That's a big loss on our offensive line, folks. We got to keep that in mind. And I know we feel like we're set on the offensive line, but we've lost a lot there. It's going to be a big loss, and we're going to have some big decisions to make on our offensive line. I still think it's going to be very solid unit. I'm not sure. Is it going to be as top as it was the last couple of years? I'm not so sure. But again, our passing game might make up for that in some respects. Again, it's just going to look a little bit. I feel like our offense can be a little bit of last year and a little bit more of 2020 combined in some kind of new mix, right? It is really the best thing I can say about it. So, in that respect. But so, in terms of bringing somebody in, and we've all been to reunions and we know how they can be, right? 10-year reunion. Now, listen, I'm getting up to my 30-year reunion, folks. I'm showing my age here, but some reunions could be great. You walk in, you see that old girlfriend, or you see that old, maybe person that was a bully in high school. And now you find out you're best friends with them. All kinds of things happen, right? Things happen when we're younger, right? So, one of our former players on this team, one of the most popular players in recent Bills history, teased a little social media content showing him in a Bills jersey and hinting at wanting to get back in that 14. And of course, this is none other than Stephon Diggs, number 14, as we call him around here. So, of course, this set social media off a little bit in Bills world, of course, as why wouldn't it, right? So, this is something we haven't seen from Stephon Diggs since he left. So, He's had a tumultuous couple of years here, as we know. But I believe the charges I think he's all set legally in terms of what happened to him. Again, listen, things happen. I'm not going to judge everybody on that front. There's the truth, there's two truths, there's two stories are usually the truth in the middle, as they always say, right? There's always something. So I try not to get too far into that. Needless to say, Stephon Diggs is out there. This is a guy that had 85 catches for 1,000 yards last year. In a very good year for New England, actually. Very consistent. He didn't do much in the AFC title game, and nobody did. No, he couldn't throw the ball. But I thought Stephon Diggs overall did better with New England than most of us thought he would, right? He had a very solid year, and he helped take a New England team to a shocking Super Bowl run, which I still don't believe. But here he is. And he's teasing this a little bit. And, listen, he's looking for a job. But what is he really after? Is he after the win, or is he after money? Because the money's not going to completely be there in Buffalo if he wanted to come back. Maybe it would be the comment of the night from Dog, as Leisha would say, tell him to go flush his head. Yeah, you know what, Dog? I'm laughing because I could hear Leisha's voice and the tone and the exact pitch that Leisha would say this in, and that's why I'm laughing so hard, because that is hysterical. Yeah, I agree. It's really true. And listen, that's probably the result and some of the reactions I would expect about Stephon Diggs. And listen, I get it. I gonna tell you though, listen, there's two sides to every story about a breakup, like it was in Buffalo. Okay. We all know Stephon Diggs is who he is, right? He's an eccentric guy, right? He's got trouble has found him sometimes, maybe sometimes unfairly and fairly, right? Is the best way I could say it, right? So I would just say it's very clear. If him and Josh mended fences and they said, listen, we aired everything out. Stephon Diggs knows at 32 years old, he knows his role and he knows what he could help this team get to. I wouldn't object to it, but these are stipulations that may not be realistic for us to get to, right? So, in a perfect world, I'm not against it, because I'm at a point. I need players. I need guys to come in here that want to win, and I think Josh maybe has changed from 2022 to now. Probably in maturity. He's now a father. He's married. He was in a bad relationship before with Brittany. We all know about these stories, right? You know about how Terry Pagula met with Josh in the offseason, about him, how he wanted him to be more professional. So again, that ties in. Maybe some of this was Josh's fault, folks. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but maybe it was, right? So having said that, again, if everything was a perfect world, I would say sure. But we all know the likelihood of that is extremely, extremely unlikely. I think this is a less than 1% possibility, of course. So I just wanted to ask you all that and kind of make for some conversation late here. And it may, because Stephon Diggs made this a conversation by putting a little tease out there about wanting to come back. And listen, this has happened a lot. Sometimes in breakups and things like that. I mean, things were very good for Stephon Diggs in Buffalo for quite a while. I mean, it wasn't that bad for him. I mean, he led the NFL in receptions for 4 years. He was on the cover of magazines. He was at his peak, and Buffalo fans treated him very well. And I'm sure part of him maybe regrets it a little bit. So, needless to say, I don't see this reunion happening. I don't see any wild movement. I think we're pretty set at wide receiver. I've heard some rumors that maybe we shut down some offers for Keon Coleman. I don't know how true that is. Again, a lot of stuff out there. As far as Keon Coleman goes, the only way I'm moving him is if I'm packaging him to get a better receiver. But again, we're already hearing Josh Palmer is already getting looked at by trainers. I mean, Josh Palmer is a guy I really want to see do well here. But again, availability is one of the abilities in this league. And if he can't be available, then what good is he doing for the team? We need to win now, folks. Sometimes you got to be a little impatient with these players. It's an unfortunate thing. It's an unfortunate reality that we need these guys to perform. We need them on the field. And so we'll have to see how that all looks. Again, do I think the Buffalo Bills could bring in another wide receiver? Yeah, I do. I still think it's a possibility. I still think it's probably something that Brandon Beane is checking in on. He loves to do that. Check in on this guy, or maybe, keep on tabs on this player or that player that could be available, maybe via trade. or maybe via free agency. I still see Stephon Diggs signing with a team that needs more of a guy that wants more volume. I mean, there's not enough. We just talked about not enough footballs to go around. You imagine bringing in Stephon Diggs of all the guys we have. Who's throwing him? How many receptions is he going to get? 30, 40? I mean, now he's a nice security blanket if something happened to DJ Moore or if something happened to Khalil Shakir. He could do a lot worse than having 14 back in your roster. But is he going to be happy in that role? Is that something he's willing to do at the point in his career? I'm not coming off an 85 reception year. I'm not so sure. So I would say he probably goes to a team that's more starving for that top playmaker and gets his numbers and gets the cash that he's looking for. So anyway, so let's see. So Albert said, "Do you know that Devin Lloyd, the Jags All-Pro linebacker, the same contract as Chubb? Knowing that we drafted defensive end with our first pick, is that a mistake?" So you know that Devin Lloyd, the Jags All-Pro linebacker, the same contract as Chubb. I think TJ Parker is probably something we needed more than we realized, to be honest. And again, when we made the pick, I was one of those guys, and Whittle was too. I think at point he would be the first to admit it. We both wanted the one tech defensive tackle from Ohio State. And he went the next pick right after we took TJ Parker. So it's not so much the player I was against the fact that we didn't take who we thought the Bills would take. Now, I do think a guy of TJ's skill set, Albert's probably something we do need more in this team than we realize, especially if we're moving Groot to the outside. So that I think leads to that being more of a need. And I think he could be a very good player in this. Again, we're going to have everything's going to be a little bit different on this defensive line in terms of Sean McDermott was more of a guy that rotated more guys in. Caden McDonald, thank you, dog. I'm telling you, he was on the tip of my tongue. And it was McDonald. I just couldn't remember his first name. So, and I think that's what got us, a lot of us, incensed, dog. It was also the fact that he went to Houston, who we played week 1. And on that defense already, you're adding Caden McDonald to that defensive line. Ooh. Oh, that offensive line you want to talk about baptism under fire for the new offensive line coach for the Buffalo Bills? That's it right there, playing Houston week 1. But I'm actually excited about playing Houston week 1 because they also have 3 new offensive linemen, including our old friend Wyatt Teller, who was on the Houston Texans offensive line. So having said that, maybe it's going to take them time to gel and get things in order. So hopefully we could steal a win. I don't care how ugly that first week it is. So if we're expecting fireworks and down in Houston for week 1 on offense, I think you're going to be disappointed. Give me 20-17. Give me 17-16. I don't care how ugly it is. Get out of there with a W, and then we could start beginning to see the better offense. So it's just so we haven't had. I mean, we've had some tough games week 1. I shouldn't even say that. We played against the Rams here in LA. Week 1, we throttled them. And yes, dog, I want this too, to get back in blood for them. Yes. I want to hear that. I want that dog in them. I want them. I need you to go into the locker room, dog, and have a little talk with them before the game because you get them fired up, man. I need them coming out with an edge. I need them coming out with an attitude and say, listen, Houston has that swagger. Houston has the thing about Houston, what makes them scary for me, they know what they can do to Josh Allen because they've done it. Right? Yeah, dog, I want you in there. I'm telling you right now. If I win the Mega Millions or the Lotto, dog, I'm gonna make that happen, man. I'm gonna find a way to get you in that building. All right, we're gonna make it happen. And also, we would of course do one major game all together. All of you here, we'll do all expenses paid, man. We'll do a pod on site with you all, so that would be great. But you could quote me on that one. So, but yeah, I need the Buffalo Bills to come out with that. Hey, we're not letting them push us around. We're going to dictate to them. A lot of sports is dictation. It really is. It's not in a dictator type word. I don't want you to think negatively of that. I'm thinking in terms of you dictate the flow. It's like tennis. If any of you guys are tennis fans, a lot of tennis is dictation, like who controls the flow, the serve and volley back and forth, right? So it's the same thing in football, right? It's in any sport, really. So whoever can impose their will on the other usually is going to win the game for the most part, unless you make a lot of mistakes or things like that. So I need the Bills to come out clean. Whittle spoke about it last year when we played the Houston Texans that we needed a line like from Josh Allen. We need like 240 yards passing with 0 interceptions. That's it. Even if he gets no touchdowns, even just got 1, no problem. That's fine. Efficient, solid, use some of our running game, get the job done. Do not make it easy for Houston. If it's 2nd and 10, I can't believe we're breaking this game down already. 109 days, maybe. We're breaking down Bills Houston first week. You got to love it. 2nd down and 10, Josh goes back to pass. He's got nothing there. If he's about to get sacked, just throw it away. Throw it away. You live another down. Don't force it. Just let it come to you. We have the team to do it. We can do it. So those are the things I'm looking for in the new staff. I'm looking to see who can rein in Josh Allen in those situations like that, especially against a team like this. So again, we're about 55 minutes in. We're getting close to the end of our pod for this week. I know usually sometimes we go a couple hours, but without Whittle, I don't know if I can last 2 hours, but I do have to get out of here maybe 10 minutes or so. But again, want to thank you all so much here in the group chat tonight. It's been an awesome pod. And again, a lot tougher to do by yourself than I realized. Wow, it's been a bit. But it's been great to spend this late day in May with you all. So again, next week, just to set things up for June, we'll be after June 1st. So we may have some talks. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the AJ Brown situation? Is that July 1st or June 1st? I think that's June 1st, right? June 1st trades, NFL, I believe that's when I expect things to happen with AJ Brown. So we will see. That's the crucial benchmark in the NFL calendar. So we'll see if AJ Brown gets dealt. We'll see if something happens with maybe Brandon Ayuk. There's been some rumors even about Joshua Palmer, maybe Kayvon Thibodeau from the New York Giants. So we could be seeing some activity come June 1st. So definitely we're going to talk more about that. I do expect AJ Brown to get traded. I do think for the Eagles, though, that situation is a lot like us in 2024. I don't think that's going to break the Eagles at all, trading AJ Brown at all. In fact, I think it's going to make them better. I think that's been building for a while, and I think they need to finally move on. I think they need to get that. They need to get that front. They need to get that leadership aligned together, and they need to take a page out of the 2024 Bills. They still have plenty of talent there, so we'll see where he goes. Will he go to New England? We'll have to see. So we're going to see. So Coleman has been rumored out there. Again, there have been offers put out there. Some of the ones I see are funny. There's one on ESPN I saw, a 2028 fifth-round pick, and the Commanders get Keon Coleman. Why are we getting a 2028 fifth-round pick for Keon Coleman? What in the world does that accomplish for the Buffalo Bills this year? Anybody? Unless you're telling me AJ Brown's coming to that building, unless you're telling me Stephon Diggs is coming to that building, why in the world would I take a 2028 fifth-round pick for Keon Coleman? Dan Graziano from ESPN. I mean, really? I mean, it's ridiculous. I even seen Seth Wader came up with one, a 2027 fourth from the Falcons. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm not selling so low on Keon Coleman at this point. I would like to trade Keon Coleman and a pick to get a better receiver. I want to go the other way on that. I'm not giving this guy away. It doesn't do a lot for me unless you're telling me this team is really set on a Skylar Bell or has somebody else in mind that we don't know about. Then I would say, okay, why don't we maybe just say, hey, if Keon has had multiple issues here, maybe he needs a fresh start somewhere else. In that case, I'd say fine. But I am not, with who we have on the roster, I'm not just giving him away for nothing like that. So we will talk next week again a lot about what happens after the June 1st. Going to be some likely some post June 1st trades, things like that. So we're going to have a little bit of flurry here. So we'll get into some of those trades, even how they impact the Bills or indirectly impact the Bills. Maybe there's big moves that get done with teams on our schedule. We'll talk about how that can relate to the Buffalo Bills. And we'll see again if there's any movement that Brandon Beane himself has in mind after June 1st. I know we loosely heard AJ Brown linked to the Bills. I would be floored if the Bills got AJ Brown. I know that was a while back that Supposedly there were 4 teams A.J. Brown wanted to go to, and the Bills were mentioned as one of the 4. I'm honored that he said that, but I just don't see right now, as the Bills are constructed, the Bills bringing in A.J. Brown. I would be shocked, but nothing would surprise me, Brandon Beane at times. But in that case, if we had a lot of money, and again, we would have to restructure Dion, and I'm not so sure the Bills want to restructure Dion. I know we had Kevin Massari on here a couple weeks ago, and he hinted about that in relation to our 4th-round pick, Jude Bowery, offensive lineman from Boston College. I think there could be something to what he's saying. So we're just going to have to see how that looks after that. But I don't think the Bills want to do anything like that. So we'll get into that next week as we go over an hour here. We'll get into the June 1st. And also, next Wednesday is game 1 of the NBA Finals with Whittle's New York Knicks. And I joke around because I just hope again he listens. The fact that I called him his New York Knicks is I could hear his ears ringing already wherever he is. He's probably like, "What's going on? This is happening." So we all know how much he loves my New York Knicks, the Eastern Conference champion New York Knicks. Sounds so good. New York is going to be on fire, folks. I went to, yeah, dog. I went to NBA Finals in 1994. I want to give you guys something to think about. I'm showing my age here a little bit. I went to Game 7 against the Pacers in '94 Eastern Conference Finals when the Knicks beat the Pacers by 4. It was still one of the greatest events I've ever been to in my life. I love the Buffalo Bills. I love the Sabres. I love baseball. But I will tell you this: when Madison Square Garden is rocking, there's no better place to see a sporting event. There's something about the center of New York. Coming up from the train, as I come from Jersey, so I used to live. You walk up, you get out in the streets of New York, you hear the sirens. Dog knows you've been to New York many times, I'm sure. The sirens, you see the Empire State Building, just the energy of New York. And then you go into the garden, and there's something you feel like you're in the center of the sports world. There's something about the garden. So I'm really excited. I hope the Knicks get this done. Our fans need it. It's been 52 years. It's been way too long. So as that's going on next week, I'm sure I'll have one eye on the pod and one eye on the Knicks game. So we'll see how that goes and see who they play. We'll get into that. We'll get into the June 1st cuts. We'll talk about or trades or things that happen. We'll see. Maybe we'll have something to report here right on the pod. It's happened before. Maybe that day we'll have some big news to talk about with our Buffalo Bills. I hope we do. I would love to see something happen. I could see a Josh Palmer move, man. I could see it. I could see something going down. I feel it in the back of my bones, but we'll see how that transpires. We'll talk more about some other fallouts from OTA, and we'll start pivoting maybe into some things to kind of set up some things for the new season. As we look more deep into our rosters, we move into mid and late June. Then, of course, we have our little real downtime, early July or so. We'll start setting you up for the first day of camp. We'll start talking about things on that front. I know Whittle and I were doing power rankings. I'm not sure if he did it last week, but maybe we'll get more into that as well and start talking more about the league as well. Just kind of spitfire through it. I'm sure we'll try to have some great guests on as we break down even some more topics about the Buffalo Bills as we go forward. But with that having said, we are over an hour. Again, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. Dog, I want to say thank you. Again, you're the best. It's great to see you here all the time. Albert, you're awesome. I always appreciate your takes. I want to say hello to Jake there. Thanks, Jake, for popping in. I really appreciate it. And also, earlier on, we had Michael Weller. Michael, thank you again as well. Oh, and I missed a comment earlier on. Oh, my friend Bobby, look at this. I'm sorry for this Super Bowl prediction. How in the world did I miss this? This is right at the top. Buffalo Bills versus the Eagles, man. I would love that. And I got to say, thank you for that. And I'm sorry, buddy, I missed that right at the top. And I apologize for that. So I want to say thank you for that. And I want to say thank you to everybody. You too, dog. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great week. And again, come join us next week. And I'm sure we'll be back better than ever to talk more Buffalo Bills football with you all. Again, we can't do this without you. Like and subscribe to us. We appreciate it. Look for some more great content coming up on our station. And I can't wait. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. And go Bills.